Welcome back. It is day 11 of 50 days of fitness. So we have just passed the 1/5 mark. And so I was sitting here this morning trying to figure out maybe what we talk about. And I thought we'd talk about macros. I mentioned that the other day. I think that that's become a kind of a pretty common concept in recent years. So instead of counting calories, which you can still count calories, the idea is that you don't only want to know what calories, but you want to count your macros. And so I think that even way back, we used to think about it in terms of, how much, fat you're eating, how much sweets you're eating, all of that kind of stuff. But this is just a little bit different. And basically our food, it breaks down into basically three categories: fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. And so those are what they are. And so the macros is short for macronutrients. So in essence, instead of just counting calories, you're going a little bit further and you're counting, what percentage of what you're eating is protein, what percentage is fat, and what percentage is carbohydrates. And we don't really do it this way, but it's always seemed to me that when we get to carbs, it should probably be divided again, because there's, vegetables and fruits and all these things are carbs. But to me, that seems different than bread and pasta and cake and, rice and potatoes and those kinds of things. But for whatever reason, they're all sort of in the same category. So what you do is you go and when you eat your meal, you can, like there's some apps that make that a lot easier. There's an app called MyFitnessPal, and you can download it. It used to be free, but I think a few years ago they started charging. I don't know what the charges are on it. I haven't used that app in a little while. But in essence, you can write in what all you ate, and then it will tell you what the calories were, and it will also tell you what your macros are. So a lot of the dieting things is kind of switched to this idea about macros, and it's like the main thing you want to control is how many carbohydrates you're eating. I used to think, a while back, many years ago, I hadn't really thought about, I'd heard of carbohydrates, protein, and fats, but I hadn't really, understood the concept of counting your macros. And so in my mind, it's like, well, you are what you eat, right? And so if you're eating protein, that should mean that you're, that's like building muscle and those kinds of things. If you're eating things with a whole lot of fat, that means that you're probably going to be adding fat and all those things. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I didn't have that right. That's not quite right. Really, a lot of our problems come from the carbs, not so much from the fat. The recommended split, just for kind of standard adult, say up to not a senior, but kind of young adult up to say middle-aged adult, that they recommend is about 50% carbs and about 25% fat and about 25% protein. Now, I simplified that a little bit. It's not exactly that, but I think it's easier to think about it in terms of a half, a fourth, a fourth. And so that's kind of what they say for a standard diet you should expect in order to get your macronutrients. Well, a lot of the diets, and especially bodybuilding and especially keto and all of these different things, they've turned that on its head. And so a lot of them have been saying, no, man, that's not right. You want to have way more protein, and you definitely want to have fat, but they're like, you want to really cut back on the carb portion of that and increase the protein and increase the fat. And well, the fat, I don't know that you increase the fat. The fat probably stays about the same, but they're saying no, you need to cut back on the carbs and raise up your protein for better health. Now, again, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a certified trainer or anything like that. This is just stuff that I've come across over the years, and based upon the research that I've done. And so I think it probably depends upon where you are, what you're trying to accomplish. And with that, then you can figure out the rest of it. And you might want to have a dietitian look at it with you, or you might want to have a trainer look at it with you and get their input on it. But my personal opinion, I've said before, I love sweets. I do. And I eat all these things, and I wouldn't really say, in general, I would probably say, I don't overeat any of that stuff. But when you start going through it all, you're eating probably a lot more than you think you are. So, on this sugar fast that I'm doing, it is a very low carb diet. Some of these diets will tell you need to keep your carbs to like under 10 grams. And that is like almost nothing. That is almost nothing. I'm not saying you should do that, but for some of these diets, that's what they tell you should do. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, as an analogy, photosynthesis. With photosynthesis, you can have a plant and you can have it out, you can be taking care of it. But it's not water that makes plants grow. They need water, and it's not even necessarily fertilizer that makes the plants grow. The plants have to have the materials, it's like building a house. You have to have the brick to build the house. If you don't have the brick, you're not going to be able to build the house. Same thing with a plant. They have to have the carbon to be able to photosynthesize it and turn it into plant material to grow. They have to do that. If it's not there, they can't do it. So they have to have carbon dioxide in the air around them. They have to have a source for that carbon. If they don't have the carbon, there's nothing to make it with. The same idea with the macros. It's like, hey, if you're trying to do this, you have to be taking into your body the materials it needs to be able to do it. So, that's where we get to this thing. It's like, if you're trying to change your body composition, if you're trying to build muscle, you need to do the exercise, but you can exercise all you want, but if there's not enough protein there, it's not going to be able to have the materials to build the muscle. And so that's kind of and I'm, again, this is the way I understand it based upon my research. And, if you're a dietitian, if you're a medical professional or something, and I've got this wrong, please let me know. Put it in the comments. We would love for more information about that, but that's the way that I have come to understand it. So that's one of the things about the bodybuilding. They say, and there's been all kinds of different things about this, but when it really comes down to it, over and over with study after study, it appears that to really build some muscle, you want to be consuming about 1 gram of protein per target body weight. So not what you are right now, but if you're trying to go up or down, whatever it is. So let's say right now I'm, today I was kind of on the edge. I think I'm 209, but it might still be 210. But if I'm trying to get to 200, then that means I should try to eat 200 grams of protein a day. And now that, it's like, oh, okay, there's a formula. You have no idea how hard that is. That is a lot of protein. And for a number of years, I would try to do that. And I didn't really, I felt like I want to be eating real food. I don't want to be, taking all of this other stuff. I want to be trying to get my protein from real food. It is really, really hard to do that. And that's one of the reasons these guys, now some of the bodybuilders, some of the really big guys, some of the guys who are like, well, for example, some of the pro wrestlers who have to be so huge, they double that or maybe even triple that. And it's just crazy. And they have to be eating almost nonstop to do that. And you'll see a lot of those guys, because it's lean protein, they'll eat chicken breast, and they will eat, a lot of those guys go on a diet where they are eating a meal 7 or 8 times a day because they can't get enough protein in if they don't do it that way. And it also doesn't work quite the same way. Let's say you went to, I can't remember the steakhouse in Western Oklahoma, where it's like a 6-pound steak. And, there's like this contest. If you can eat the entire steak within a certain period of time, you get it free. And, so if you could eat a 6-pound steak and get all that at the same time, it doesn't quite work that well. There's some thought that at any given meal, you can only utilize a certain amount of it. So that's why these guys, they're eating 7 or 8 times a day. They're eating lean chicken. It is really hard to do. So, I didn't bring it over here. So in order to do it, you probably have to take additional protein. And I have some protein over there. Actually, I haven't taken it in a while. I think that somewhere in this challenge, I will start adding protein, but I haven't been doing that yet. I'm not really at a point. I mean, what we're doing here, or what I'm doing here, I wouldn't say that it's really a bodybuilding, muscle building, even strength building kind of thing. It's kind of toning, kind of getting used to exercise again, trying to get ready and just get more fit, not necessarily a lot more muscular or a lot stronger, but that's a good base to jump off to other things. But so there's things you need to know about protein too. And gosh, I've run longer than I thought. So, but let me just say real quickly, there's different kinds of protein. There's plant-based protein. There's animal-based protein. There's whey, which is animal-based protein. And you want to think about that. The plant-based protein normally comes from soy. And I'm just going to say it, and there'll be people, I'm sure, that will disagree with me, and we may even end up in an argument about it in the comments. I don't know. But if you're going to take soy protein, that is not good for men. It's just not. The soy content has other side effects that can really create problems for men. Now, as far as I know, it doesn't create those same problems for women. My understanding is that it really, women it's really fine. But for men, it can create other issues for you. So you want an animal-based protein, and probably the one that most people use is whey protein. Whey protein is like, comes from milk. It's a milk derivative or things like that. So it's usually from, I would think nearly 100% of the time from cow's milk. But that is probably what you need. And so, you can do that. And again, now I am going to tell you, this is harder than it sounds. It's like, oh yeah, I'll do that. Well, you start taking the protein. And one of the other things, the proteins, you have to read your protein and see what's in it, because it should be just protein. Sometimes it may have some flavoring. Like the one I have has like chocolate flavoring. But some protein makers will add like steroids and stuff like that in them, and that is not good. You do not want that. You want just the plain protein. A lot of them may add some sort of sweetener to it as well. That's both for the taste and also like when you're doing the exercises, especially like when you're lifting and stuff. Another thing, you need your protein. Another thing that helps with the muscle building is an insulin spike. So a slight insulin spike, you don't want like to go crazy, but a slight insulin spike when after you've had your workout and you're having your protein seems to help with you building muscle. So those are sort of the basics of macros and protein. And I think that somewhere down the road here, maybe halfway through or a little bit longer, I will probably start adding protein as well. But you do have to watch it because the protein is not calorie free. It has calories in it. So that can also mess up your macros. It can increase the calorie intake that you're taking without you even realizing it. So you have to take that into account. If you're trying to stay at a calorie deficit, you have to count the calories from your protein as well. All right, I've run nearly 16 minutes and I am sorry I ran late this time, but that wraps it up for today. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow for day 12 of 50 Days of Fitness. Take care, everybody. Bye.